Shalom, shalom. I want to start off this video by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elder bishops of the great millstone that rule well and teach well while learning truth, the 100% truth according to the Bible. I also want to say shalom to the Lord's elect, the 144,000, the men, prophets, servants scattered abroad the four winds of the earth. And shalom to you sincere believers out there as well that believe in the testimony of our Lord Yahweh Shah, which is the spirit of prophecy. Shalom. And then today's lesson is going to be a lesson building off of this dream that I had, right, through the spirit. I actually had this dream last night, and the spirit jumped on me to do a lesson on this because this dream that I had was basically touching on the times that's getting ready to come, right, which in the dream I was basically going through persecution, which we know that that's getting ready to come heavily upon the men of the Lord, right? Because as the scriptures say in, 2nd Esdras chapter 16, which I'll grab that first, right, through the spirit, because this is basically what was going on in the dream, which, the scriptures say that these things are coming, right? 2nd Esdras 16 and 70, for there should be in every place and in the next cities here in Babylon, the great America, a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord, right? You go into that word insurrection, it goes into a violent uprising, right, against something or someone. And that's exactly what was going on in my dream. There was a violent uprising going on against the Lord's people, which are the Israelites, so-called Negro, Latino, Native American Indians. And the dream felt so vivid. It felt so real, man. If the Lord didn't wake me up from the dream, it almost felt as though I was in it in real time. But I just, get that through the spirit is the Lord just, allowing me to know how quick these things are getting ready to happen, or these things are close, that they're getting ready to take place soon. That's how it felt in the dream, letting us know that the persecution is around the corner. Jacob's trouble, which we're already in the beginning stages of it, but is going to intensify real soon, man. Right, and that's basically what I perceived, But I'm actually, go to Joel chapter 2, verse 28, right? And it says, and it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams, your young men shall see visions, right? And this is the time we're in now. That's why you got so many people, heavily having these visions about, end time events happening, whether it be Jacob's trouble, all hell breaking loose, whether it's martial law in the streets, military soldiers, whether it's, the so-called white man coming in with great wrath, whether it's the mark of the beast, RFID chip, or World War III. You just constantly having people having these visions about the things we know that's soon to happen according to prophecy, right? And I'm actually getting to the dream in which it is that I had. So the dream basically took place on me being on this bus, right? Which through the spirit, I was able to know that this wasn't a regular bus that I was on, right? Because, you got different type of buses. You got buses that people ride in these cities, like transit buses, like your MARTA buses, and different buses that people can pay, a little fee of money to get on to go from place to place, and things like that. But I was able to know in the dream that it wasn't a bus like that. This bus was basically like, a bus that they were rounding people up on. That's what I was able to get, like almost like a FEMA camp bus or something like that. You know what I'm saying? I just know it wasn't a regular bus. And all I know is I was on the bus, and then I was trying to get off the bus, and it's almost like we were stuck on them to the point to where we can't even get off them. It's like basically everybody that was on the bus is almost like they had us forced on them, right? Like you couldn't get off it type stuff. But, it was powerful because in the dream, even though I was on the bus and I peeped everything that was going on, right? Me knowing these scriptures, knowing, I was in the spirit of knowing like, oh man, this is Jacob's trouble. That's the exact thought that popped into my mind in the vision. Like, this is Jacob's trouble. It officially, intensified, right? Like, we're in it, right? I was able to know that because I knew that this wasn't a regular bus. Like, there was a bus that they were putting people on, I guess, to, try to control them or to take them to another location or whatever the case may have been. But all I know, they had a lot of people on this bus, right? Because I knew that as well through the vision, that I'm not the only person that's on this bus. It was filled to the capacity of people, right? So it was packed, right, with everybody just sitting in seats, lined up and stuff like that, right? But it was so powerful in itself because, the Lord allowed a way for me to, be able to get out of the window, right, in the bus, right, which, hey, the Lord is going to be doing things like this, man. There's going to be certain situations that men of the Lord are going to be in, right? And Yahweh Hashem Yahushua is going to be delivering men out of situations, right? That's getting ready to come, man, because, hey, what was going on in that dream was wild, right? And then after I escaped the bus, right, I ended up, falling down this little hatchet or like I went to like another different area because we were on a road, right? We were basically on like what I perceived to be like a freeway or a road or something, but it wasn't cars really riding on it. It's like it was almost empty streets, but nothing was on the streets but the vans that were, basically, transporting people or whatever the case may have been, right? The buses. Right, so I got out of the window and I slid down this little thing into another section away from the bus. And all I know is there was like this Edomite, right, which I perceived in the dream. He had to be either a Gurga troop or he had to be either a military soldier, because I just knew in my spirit in the dream that he wasn't a police officer, right? I knew he was either like a military officer or something like that, a soldier, or he was some type of ICE agent or something. I don't really know, but all I know is he wasn't the police. And he basically was, hunting me down, trying to get me, right, to try to put me back on the bus, right? That's basically what he was trying to do. Like he was, trying to find me, going out his wits to try to get me. But it's like every time that the devil, he got close to trying to get me, it's like the Lord always make a way for me to ultimately escape the clutches of this damn devil, man. Right? And that's what the Lord is going to be doing in these times for his elect. Yahweh Ratazah, I be of the elect, Lord's willing. Right? But all I know in that dream, the Lord was allowing me to constantly get out of certain situations that I was finding myself in during that time of everything that was going on. Right? And also, I did have a counter with the guy. Like, there was a point where in the dream, because, when we have these visions, it switches over to different parts and things like that. The spirit just be rolling when you be asleep. So, but all I know is there was a scene in the vision as well where I was actually talking to the Edomite, because he was a so-called white man, and I perceived him to be an Edomite through the spirit, because he definitely wasn't a Jake. You can tell by his spirit he had a disdain for Jake, and he really had a disdain for me, right? Which like I said, this is all going to tie into the persecution which is coming down the pipeline. And the Lord allowed me to know as well that the reason why this man has such a disdain or hate for me is because it's like they know who the men of the Lord are, right? And like I said, Yahweh Ratazah, I pray and hope I'm of the elect, right? This is just a vision I had through the spirit. I don't know if I'm of the Lord's elect, because none of us know if we are, but I hope I am, But like I said, in the dream, it's like this Edomite, right? He knew I was a man of the Lord. And he was ultimately, he hated me for that, right? So it's basically like these people hatred that they have for the men of the Lord, for the prophets, is basically going to intensify times 10, because we already see that these people despise us now. But that hate is going to turn up to a whole nother level. You see, that's what's getting ready to come. Right? Because ultimately I was talking to the Edomite, trying to interact with him and things of that nature, because he was talking to me. He was asking me certain questions, right? And all I know is every time I gave him a response to a question he would ask me, right? It's like he'll give me like a hostile or an angry response to whatever it is I said. So, like I said, this is all tying into what's getting ready to come, right? Because best believe the men of the Lord, hey, we're going to be target number one in these times, man, of Jacob's trouble, right? That's what I was able to perceive, that this devil's going to try to go after the men of the Lord first. We're going to be the ones who he's going to be targeting, right? That's who this devil, he was going after the regular Jakes as well, but he really had his mind on the Lord's prophets. Right? But hey, Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, like I said earlier, every situation that I was finding myself in, the Lord delivered me out of it. Whether it was me being in that bus being transported and the Lord allowed me to escape out the window, it was just all type of different things that was happening to where I was able to escape out of all of the snares that, Esau was trying to set in traps. I was getting out of it. You know? And let me actually go to another scripture real quick. I'm going to go to Matthew, the 24th chapter, man. Right? Because all of this is coming. You know, Lord Yahushua said, you know, that these things will happen. Right? And we definitely coming into those times, man. You see? But this is Matthew 24. And I'll start at verse... I'll go down to verse 9. And it says, then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted and shall kill you. And you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And this time is coming, man, where some of us brothers, and it's truth, hey, we're going to be martyrs. Some of us are going to lose our lives, man, for this truth, for this gospel. You know, that's going to be some of the lots, you know, the path that a lot of us men may have to walk, right? That's why the beloved Apostle Gabar, you know, he always going into on knowing what you're involved in, man, because we're involved in something seriously. Hey, this thing is getting ready to come down to life and death, man. Well, some of us going to lose our lives, you know, and we got to prepare our minds for these days because, hey, we don't know what our lot consists of. We can be of those that ultimately lose our lives, man, or have to, you know, be beheaded or, you know, have to be martyrs for this truth. You know, that's coming, right? But it says, and then shall many be offended and shall betray one another and shall hate one another, right? And that's exactly what's going on now, but it's going to increase, right? That's what you have happening. A lot of people are offended. And why are a lot of people offended? One would ask, right? Because this gospel, man, right? This doctrine that's being taught by the elder apostles and the elder bishops of the great millstone, which is the 100% truth according to the Bible. And it has these people upset, man, right? You go to the internet, you see all of these people making these videos coming up against the men of the Lord. Hey, these people are offended, man, right? And they really despise the men of the Lord, man. Right, these people really despise us, especially these damn devils, man. Right, and ultimately Esau despises us because, hey, he knows that his time is short, man. Right, and everything that we're saying according to the Bible, these devils know is coming. Right, they know that they're at the end of their kingdom. They know that they're going into slavery. They know all these things, so they're going to try to come after the men of the Lord to try to, you know, thinking that they're going to eradicate us because, you know, Esau is carnal. But like I said, the Lord is going to defend his elect, man. Right. Let me grab that scripture. You know, touch not my prophets. You know, roughly paraphrasing. I know it's in the book of Psalms. Right? King David said it. Yep. This is Psalms chapter 105. And I start at verse 14. It said, he suffered no man to do them wrong. Yea, he reproved kings for their sakes. Verse 15 is the point. Saying, touch not my anointed and do my prophets no harm. Right? And that's exactly what was happening in the dream. You know, in the dream, all of the different type of, you know, things that I found myself in, you know, little, you know, snares that Esau was set or whatever the case may have been. I was knowing that the Lord was ultimately getting me through those things. You know, he kept getting me out of situations where I could have possibly lost my life and things of that nature. And like I was saying, through the spirit, I knew that this was the time of Jacob's trouble, man, right? Like I said, we're already in the beginning stages of Yaquab Tazarah, you know, which is Jacob's trouble, but it ultimately hasn't reached that intensity level yet, but it's going to get there soon. Right, and like I said earlier, that's what I got through the spirit, that Jacob's trouble is about to go to another level real soon, man. Right, real soon, right? Because as it tells us in Revelation 12 and 12, which I got to bring that up, you know, because this is what's about to happen, right? And it says, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil, right, which is Esau, Edom. This is the so-called white man, right, which is the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan, man, on the left-hand side, right? It says, earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you having great wrath, meaning extreme anger. So, and that's how this devil was coming down in my vision, man. Right, this devil, he had a disdain for the men of the Lord, man. Right, and I knew through the spirit that it wasn't just me that was in this situation. Right, because you never know, man. Esau might, you know, bust into brothers' houses, you know, early in the morning, 3, 4 in the morning, round brothers up, put them onto these buses. Right, But hey, we got all the accounts we have in the scriptures of, the Lord delivering our forefathers out of situations, right? And that's why it tells us in Romans 15:4, the things that were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. Because I got to keep referring to me being in the bus and the Lord allowing that window to open, which is all spiritual, man, and just going to show you, just Yahweh Hashem Yahushua is going to come through for his men, man, right? You hopeful like brothers out there that are sincere, you sisters, hey, Yahweh Hashem Yahushua is going to be coming through on the behalf of his elect. Lord's willing, we be at that number in these times that are coming, right? Because, yeah, man, like I was saying, I was on the van, or in the bus, I should say, because that's what it was. And out of all of the areas in the bus, it was my window that was, unlocked, and I was able to escape out of it. So, like I said, man, the Lord going to be doing a lot of miracles in these times on the behalf of his men, man, on the believers, man. He's going to be coming through for them in major ways, man, right? Getting us out of life and death situations, man, right? Preserving us, right? But let me read Revelation 12:12 again. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, right? Extreme anger, because he knoweth that he had but a short time. Yeah, these devils, they know their time is up, right? They know that them ruling the earth and wickedness, that is getting ready to come to an end. And who are the ones that are prophesying and telling them they're in? The prophets, right? That's why we're going to be target number one. That's why they're going to try to come after us first, right? They're going to definitely try to come after us first. But guess what? As it tells us in Isaiah 59, right, which, the Spirit been allowing this scripture to come out a lot lately, because, hey, it's all through the Spirit, man. This is what's coming, so, hey, it is what it is, This is what the Lord is about to do, man. Isaiah 59 and verse 19, it says, so shall they fear the name of the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua from the west, and his glory for the rising of the sun. When the enemy, right, the chief enemy is the so-called white man, the devil, right? When the enemy shall come in like a flood, right, the Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him, right? And that's what the Lord going to do for the elect, man, right? He going to lift up a standard, man, right? Divine intervention is going to be happening on men of the Lord's behalf, man, right? Where they're going to be being protected in all of these troublesome times that are getting ready to befall this planet Earth, chiefly here in America, man, with all the things that are about to occur. Yahweh Hashem Yahushua is ultimately going to be defending his elect men and you women out there, man. You hopeful like ladies, you sisters, right, that are sincere, your children, right? But let me go to the book of Psalms, right? And I go to chapter 91, right? And I start at verse 1. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. The secret place is within his word and his truth. Verse 2, I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress, my power, and him will I trust. And that's exactly what the elect are going to do in these times of trouble that's coming, man. They're going to put all of their trust in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. And guess what? The Lord going to be, getting his elect out of situations, man, delivering them out of all type of different scenarios and different type of, things that they ultimately may find themselves in. The Lord going to be coming through, man. Right? Because as it tells us in the book of, Proverbs 18:10, the name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous runneth into it and is saved, man. Right? And when you go into that word refuge, right, which I'm going to look that up real quick on Google. So bear with me. This is the meaning of the word refuge, right? On the AI overview on Google, right? And I typed in the Bible meaning to it, and it popped up. It said, in the Bible, refuge refers to a safe, secure shelter from danger or distress, man, right? And that's what was going on in the vision I had, man. It was a time of danger and distress, right? But, hey, the Lord was making sure that his elect, right, which I got to constantly reiterate, I don't know if I'm of the Lord's elect, but I pray and hope that I am, but all I know is it was me in a dream, and like I said, through the Spirit, I know that it wasn't just happening to me that was going through that, right? It was other brothers as well that was, in that type of situation that I was in, where they was basically being persecuted, right? Because that's what it was, man. Because through the Spirit, I was able to pick up and know that the reason why I'm in this situation is because I teach the scriptures, man, right? So it's basically like Esau already has the men of the Lord at his crosshairs, right? Like, yeah, when we come in, this is who we're going to go after. Yeah, like Esau already has everything mapped out, on how he's going to try to come after the men of the Lord and how he's going to try to devour us. But hey, guess what? It ain't going to happen the way that this devil thinks it's going to happen, right? Because like I said, the Lord going to lift up that standard when this devil come in, man. Thinking that, he's just going to be able to, do what he's going to do to the Lord's people, the elect of the Lord's people. It ain't going to happen, right? The Lord going to fight on the behalf of the elect, man, right? And that's what this devil's going to find out, right? But I'm going to read it again. In the Bible, refuge refers to a safe, secure shelter from danger or distress. It is used in two primary ways: as a spiritual metaphor for placing one's complete trust in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua's protection, and as a literal system of designated cities of refuge, right? So yeah, man, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua is going to be our refuge in these times of trouble, and which it is that's getting ready to happen, for his elect, right? Because as it tells us in the book of Nahum, right, chapter 1, and I read verse 7 in the KJV, it says, "The Lord is good," right? "A stronghold in the day of trouble, and he knoweth them that trust in him." Yeah, man, the Lord knows those who trust in him, which are his elect, right? And we know what the scriptures say in Sirach, the 2nd chapter, right? Which I got to bring that out too, right? So bear with me while I grab that. This is Sirach, also known as Ecclesiasticus, chapter 2, verse 10. In the Apocrypha. And it says, "Look at the generations of old and see, did ever any trust in the Lord and was confounded," right? That word confounded means being brought to shame, right? And we know that none of our forefathers that put their trust in the Lord was confounded, right? The Lord came through for them, right? That's why we got all of these different accounts in the scriptures, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace, how the Lord delivered them out of that. Daniel, our forefather in the lion's den, the Lord delivered them out of that, right? And many more accounts, right? The Lord going to be delivering his elect out of, dangerous scenarios and dangerous things that are to come in these times as well, right? As it tells us in Malachi 3 and 6, the Lord doesn't change. "Therefore, ye sons of Jacob are not consumed," roughly paraphrasing. So just like the Lord took care of his men in the ancient world, he's going to do the same thing in this time to his prophets, right? Which, those ancient prophets are back here on the earth now, today, in the reincarnation, which we pray to be those men, right? But it says, "Or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? Or whom did he ever despise that called upon him?" Right? Which we know the answer to these things are nobody, right? But this is verse 11. It says, "For the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua is full of compassion and mercy, long suffering and very pitiful, and forgiveth sins, and saveth in time of affliction." Right? And let's go to the meaning of that word affliction too, because that's what's getting ready to come, man. Some very afflicting times, right? And we'll grab that meaning as well in the Bible, right? Yep. In the Bible, affliction refers to any state of physical pain, mental distress, or severe hardship, right? It encompasses everything from illness and poverty to oppression and spiritual trials, right? Because, hey, these things that the elect are going to go through in these times are going to be trials of their faith, man, right? What does it tell us in the book of 2nd Ezra 16, which I'm going to go back to that, right? "Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire." Yeah, so the Lord going to put us through these different things to try our faith, right? But the elect are going to, go through those things and come out on the other side as that precious gold, man, right? The Lord is going to have to try his elect, right? Because as it tells us in the book of Acts, chapter 14, verse 22, right? Which I'll grab that one real quick. So bear with me while I pull that out. And we're going to read that in the KJV too. "Confirming the souls of the disciples and exhorting them to continue in the faith, and that we must through much tribulation," right? With tribulation, going through trials, going through hell, adversity, right? "We must through much tribulation enter into the kingdom of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua." So basically, to get to the kingdom, it ain't going to be a cakewalk. We're going to have to go through all type of things, persecution, all type of various things that's getting ready to come down the pipe, right? But hey, as it tells us in Matthew 24 and 13, "But he that shall endure to the end, the same shall be saved." And that's what it's about, man. Ultimately enduring, whatever it is that our lot consists of, and praying to the Lord to keep the spirit on us to be able to endure it, right? Because, hey, these times are coming, right? Persecution is coming down the pipe, right? Jacob's trouble is about to heat up. Hey, things are about to get worse out here in this planet Earth, right? Esau is about to come in like a madman. Hey, these things are getting ready to happen, man. So let me go to that 2nd Esdras 16, right? And I'll go down to verse, I read verse 73. It said, then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold and the fire. Yeah, the elect going to be tried, man, right? Verse 74 it said, hear, O ye my beloved, which is the house of David. That's the elect, saith the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same. And that's exactly what is ahead, man. The days of trouble are getting ready to manifest, man. It's getting ready to heat up more than it is now. Things are getting ready to intensify here in this earth, especially here in America, man, right? This devil's getting ready to show his horse on a whole nother level, you know, because these devils know that their time is short, man. These devils know it's over, right? Their kingdom is done, man, right? America won't be brought back. These devils are fighting over power. They know it's over, right? So, hey, the only thing they can do now is result to that blessing, which is the sword, and come down heavy, because they know it's over with for their ass, man, right? Verse 75, it said, be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua is your God, man. Right? And that's what the Lord going to be for his men in these times, a guide, man. Right? Leading them, directing their steps, and things of that nature, you know. But let me go back to Psalms 91, and we'll end it off with this, you know. Psalms 91, and I'll read verse 3. It says, surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler, from the noise of pestilence, right? And when it talks about the snare, right, goes into a trap. The fowler is Esau Edom, right? And he's going to be setting a lot of snares and traps in these times for the Lord's elect, for his men, right? Trying to get brothers caught up in all type of different things. But the Lord is going to be with his men, right? Getting them out of all type of different situations in which it is that they may find themselves in, you see. Verse 4, he shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shall thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler, right? This truth, right? This knowledge and wisdom is going to be our shield and buckler, right? When you go into a shield, you know, those are tools and, you know, instruments that are used to defend and protect oneself. So this truth, you know, that we got from the scriptures in the times that are to come is what's going to keep us stable, right? That's Isaiah 33:6. You know, how wisdom and knowledge of the Bible shall be the stability of thy times, the strength of salvation, the fear of Yahweh, while Yahweh shines his treasure, man. So, hey, Yahweh writes out, we be at that number. Hey, we're going to be stable in these times that are coming, right? So with everything Esau is trying to do and come out to the men of the Lord with, hey, the Lord going to be with us, man. Hey, we ain't going to really even be phased by none of this stuff this devil's going to be doing, man, because that's the spirit the Lord going to put on his men, right? Whatever we got to go through, right? Whether if that even means losing our lives. Because like I got to say again, right, some of us are going to be martyrs. Some of us in these times that are coming are going to, you know, have to give up our lives. But, I mean, hey, at the end of the day, we know what the scriptures say. You know, those that, you know, lose their life shall be raised up first. When the Lord returns with the angels, man, right, they're going to be the first ones to be beamed up into those chariots. Right? Those that do give up their lives, right? And as the scriptures also say, there's nothing more precious in the sight of the Lord than the death of his saints, right? But this verse 5, it says, thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that fly by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Yes, so you gonna have a lot of people in these times that's gonna be getting mowed down like trees, being judged by the Lord. But guess what? When it comes to that elect man, right, that has that tawah upon them to be exempt from the judgment that's coming, right, they're gonna be the ones being, they're gonna be the ones being protected. They're gonna be the ones being delivered out of these different types of, events and, different type of things that are going to be playing out here, because, hey, the time of Jacob's trouble is going to be a time like no other. You're going to have so many things going on at once, man. Troubles on all sides, man, right? The Lord describes how the day of the Lord is going to be, man. As of a man did flee from a lion, and a bear met him, went in the house and leaned his hand on the wall, and the serpent bit him. So that basically goes into, everywhere you turn, there's going to be evil on each side. That's how these times are going to be. But like I said, the Lord is going to preserve his men, right? The elect in these times, man. Verse 8, it said, only with thine eyes shall thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. Yeah, and that's exactly what we're going to see, right? We're going to see the reward of the wicked, man, right? Of these damn devils, right? 2/3 of our own people that join hand in hand with this devil that love his system. And we're going to see the Lord, messing these people up, man. And the times that's coming, we're going to see these people having no protection from the Lord and getting jacked the hell up, man. Right? That's exactly what's going to be happening. And guess what? The Lord, on the other hand, going to be, Lord's willing, we be at that number, right? Delivering us out of situations that are going to be occurring, man. We're going to be escaping terrible things that other people are going to be having to face and go through and get judged by. We're going to be escaping those type of things, Verse 9, because thou hast made the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come out of thy dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. Yep, and that's exactly what's going to happen in these times, right? The Lord going to give his angels charge over his men and over you hopeful elect ladies, your children, right? You sincere believers. Hey, the Lord going to give his angels charge over brothers to protect them. Right? This is what's coming, man. Divine intervention, because ultimately we're going to need it, right? Because like I said, in my vision, man, hey, this devil came in heavily, man, right? Rounded everybody up, put us on buses and, things like that. And, through the Spirit, I was able to know that, they was taking us to concentration camps in these buses, man. These buses that they were putting people in, they were basically taking them to, undisclosed locations, right? And we all know what's probably going to be happening in these concentration camps. Well, we already know through the scriptures, right? Because it tells you, in Revelation 2:10, fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that you may be tried, right? Tried going into being tested, because a lot of these concentration camps, and you already got ICE building these centers, right? The information came out a few months ago. You had a lot of brothers, such as myself and other brothers, that did lessons on it. You basically got ICE that was funded with $45 billion, I believe, could be more, billions of dollars from Trump and his administration. They basically got funded with $45+ billion ultimately to build these concentration camps, which they call them detention centers, all throughout Babylon the Great in different states. But hey, these places are going to be used for the times that are coming. When they round people up, they're going to be taking people to these places, right? Trying to get you to take the Charagma, and things like that. That's what's coming. You see? Hey, the times that we're in is not a joke, man. And a lot of our people, you jakes out there that's playing, you think it's shit a joke. You people laughing at what the men of the Lord are saying. You thinking what we telling you is crazy. And you people about to be in for a very rude awakening, right? The Lord about to, I'm telling you, man, you people about to see real soon, man. For real, like all the fun and games and all of that, the scoffing and all that different type of stuff that Jake does, hey, that shit about to stop, man. Really. And you people about to see, man, right? You see, like the beloved Apostle Gabar say, when words don't teach, adversity will, and that's what the Lord about to bring upon, these people, man. Adversity, man. Trouble, right? It's getting ready to come, man. Right? But like I said, in the midst of all this trouble that is getting ready to come, there's going to be hope ultimately for the Lord's elect. So we're going to actually end up grabbing that real quick, and we just flowing through the Spirit at this point. But Yahweh his eyes edifying nonetheless, right? This is Jeremiah chapter 30. And I start at verse 7. We're going to get straight to it. It said, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Going into the elect, man. You see, and like I said, through this vision I had, I was able to know that I was in Jacob's trouble, and it was basically intensified, right? Because like I said, these, who I perceived, through the Spirit, because I knew they weren't police officers. They had to be like, Gurga troops, military agents, or officers, or whatever the case may have been, ICE. They were somebody, but all I know, they weren't regular police. Right, and like I say, they had people rounded up and on buses and things like that, right? And like I said, I know through the dream that they were trying to target the men of the Lord. Like, we were basically the ones that they wanted to round up, the most, like Esau had his direct eye and target on the men of the Lord, right? But hey, as it tells us in the book of John, chapter 15, and I'll end it out with this, I started verse 18. It said, if the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. And this is red letter. This is Lord Yahushua, who they ignorantly called Jesus, man. Right? And Lord Yahushua was hated. Right? And we're going to be hated too. And these people already hate us, man, just for teaching this truth. You know, we're already the enemy of these damn people, man. But guess what? It's coming to a time where their hate that they have for us is going to be intensified on a whole nother level. Right? Because these people despise us now, but it is going to turn up. The Lord is going to turn the demons up in these people. It's going to intensify, man. Right? We ultimately haven't seen nothing yet. You know, it's going to get worse. It got to get worse before it can get better. You know. But this is verse 19, and this is why they hate us. If you were of the world would love his own. You see, if we were of the world, we were doing what these people in the world do. You know, we were out here partying, you know, doing all of the, you know, wickedness that the people of the world deems right. You know, out here chasing money, making that our top priority. You know, chasing clubs and all this other BS that these people mind on. If we were doing that, then these people would accept us. They'll look at us as one of them, right? Oh, you doing what I'm doing, so I like you. But seeing as though we don't do those things, right? We abstain from that type of activity and, you know, partaking in those type of things, right? Drinking excessively, you know, smoking and all of this other stuff that these people do that they think is right. We stay away from those things, you know. Not saying that anything is wrong with drinking, because of course you can drink, but you don't want to excessively drink, you know, be a drunkard or nothing like that. But yeah, man, that's basically, you know, that's why these people hate us, because we're just not like them, you know, because these people in this world are wicked, you know, and we're abstaining from wickedness. You know, we're departing from those things. And as the scriptures say, he that departed from evil maketh himself a prey, you know. But I read it again, verse 19, if you were of the world would love his own. But because ye are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hateth you. Verse 20, remember the word that I said unto you, the servant is not greater than his Lord. If they have persecuted me, they will also persecute you. If they have kept my saying, they will keep yours also. You see? Beautiful. Right? So, our Lord Yahushua HaMashiach, he was persecuted. They despised the Lord heavily. Right? And guess what? Us, you know, being the prophets of the Lord's willing, we are those men coming back into our lot through the reincarnation. Hey, we're going to have to go through the same thing, man. We're going to have to go through it. You know, you got to go through it to get to it, you know. So with that being said, Yahweh Ratazah, I pray this lesson be edifying. Like I said, building off of that, you know, vision that I had. You know, so with that being said, I'm going to end it off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honor to the apostles and the elder bishops of the great millstone that rule well and teach well while learning truth, the 100% truth according to the Bible. According to the Bible, Salakia. With that being said, to the next time, Kwan Yasharala in the Bible ball. Shalom, La Bakarium to the Lord's elect. Shalom.